Yeah, it's moving. We're moving, baby. It's moving season. All right. The football team's moving. The basketball team's moving. Everybody's moving. Um, Speaking of moving, yesterday we were out at practice, Chronic, and both Kevin and myself watched Donaven McCulley, and he just stood out. And it's rare that we sit here and talk about a guy that's third on the depth chart, but the dude stood out, man. I mean, Kevin will probably say the same thing, but I was like, man, he just looked poised. I mean, he's not ready to go out there and play, but you just look there and go, oh man, boy, another year or so, this kid is going to give Jack Tuttle a run for his money. Indiana, the quarterback room is in really, really good hands right now.
Yeah, and we've long talked about the keys to Indiana's success for the last couple of years, and it's rested pretty squarely on the shoulders of Michael Penix. And as people talk about the durability, the long-term viability of Indiana football as a Big Ten contender, a national contender, the realities of modern college football, just football in general, you got to be really strong at that position. It's no different than needing to have a very, very good point guard if you want to play at the highest level. That's your floor general. And you talk about what's the biggest difference between Indiana football now and Indiana football 5, 10, 20 years ago. It's talent, depth of talent. And as we're starting to see, Tom Allen's building that all the way across the field on both sides of the ball right now. But critically important for purposes of short-term success after this season. It looks like Indiana's going to have some pretty solid options in the backfield.
Well, absolutely. Not only that, their running back room, Kevin, solid as well. This is going to be a better offense, I think, than last year. That's hard to say, but I think that they're going to have a better offense than they did last season.
I think that, when you talk about that, 2 years ago under Kalen DeBoer, I thought they had a more dynamic offense than they had last year. And I think Nick Sheridan went through some growing pains, certainly as his first year as offensive coordinator. It wasn't always smooth sailing, but certainly what happened last year was the defense stepped up in the turnovers, created some short fields and so forth. But this year, I think with, some of the running backs, it'll be interesting to see who steps up and takes over for Stevie Scott. You have Ty Freifogel back. Javon Swinton is another guy that's caught my eye a little bit in practice too. He's, doing some good things at wide receiver. So, I think you've got some pieces there.
Absolutely. Chronic, as far as fan expectations, we talk about that here. What are they? What should they be going into this first game at Iowa? Of course, everybody wants to win that game. I think Indiana is going to win that game. I think they should win that game, but irrelevant. Fan expectations, what are they? What should they be?
It's a great question because we've never really been here before. This is uncharted waters for both the program as well as its fan base. I fully expect, and this is always the crazy thing about starting, a non-traditional schedule where you've got a Big Ten opponent right out of the gates, and it's not completely unheard of. But it's a hard landing as the schedule begins. I mean, there's really no room for error right out of the gates for this Indiana football team. The expectations can go out the window, or they can elevate to a whole nother stratosphere here. So the expectation, I think, is a competitive football team. I mean, quite honestly, I think baseline now, Indiana fans have a right and reason to expect this program to at least be able to compete with every single opponent on the schedule. And obviously there's always going to be an asterisk whenever you play Ohio State. That's the bar by which the conference is measured and has been for some time now. But generally speaking, I think as you look across the schedule and all the opportunities and the challenges that it's going to present this team, I think the expectation is Indiana should have a chance to win any game that they show up for. Now, whether that bears out remains to be seen. I was just having a conversation yesterday with some guys at work and talking about, what are the odds last season was a fluke? Of all the years for Indiana to have a year like that, it's done when there's no fans. Home field advantage is completely negated. And the point I always come back to whenever these matters come up, it kind of tells you what the team has inside of them, because they were the ones bringing the energy. They were the ones bringing the vibe to every game. They brought their own juice. If they can do that when nobody's watching, imagine what they can do with the Pac Memorial Stadium behind them. Imagine what they can do, with the boos of opposing student sections in their ears, and how they can turn that into fuel. I think that's, I think this is well past the point of even having the conversation. Was it a fluke or not? How high can they go at this point?
I do think some of those road environments, though, chronic, will be interesting, like Kinnick and Penn State and Michigan, because that's a 12th man that you're facing. That'll be a little bit of adversity too, though.
No, logistically, I mean, that's what gives you the advantage. You literally, offenses can't hear when they're operating because the crowd noise is so loud. It puts such an emphasis on focus and discipline and execution. That said, I think this team is, while they're extraordinarily talented, they're still pretty young, but they're really, really experienced. And that's the thing that I think they're going to draw from, that they haven't had to their advantage at this point. They've been in those tight situations. They found ways to break through, pardon the season catchphrase there. They're old heads now. They've been there. They've done that. Now it's going to be a little bit louder. But the fact still remains, they've seen themselves actualize success in the Big Ten. And I think it's just made them hungrier for more.